What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be answering the most frequently asked questions that I get when it comes to kettlebell complexes. Now, real quick, if you don't know what a kettlebell complex is, it is very simple and straightforward. It is basically a series of exercises put back to back into one flowing set. So for example, you do 5 rows, right into 5 cleans, right into 5 push press. You can do that with 2 kettlebells, you can do it with 1 kettlebell and do the whole thing on one side, then go to the other, and so on. Very simple, very straightforward. Now let's jump into these questions. Before we go any further, are you using kettlebell complexes in your training? Because if you're not, you should be. They are one of the best ways to do fun, time efficient, and effective full body strength and conditioning workouts. And I'm gonna make it super easy for you to implement them. Go ahead and click the first link in my description below so you can get your hands on my list of my 20 best and favorite kettlebell complexes sent directly to you for free. You won't regret it. Now, the first question is going to be, what are they used for? Are they used for building muscle? Are they cardio? Are they used for building strength? And so on and so forth. And the answer is, one, they can do all of them, but it also depends on how you go about it. So the main idea behind kettlebell complexes, and the reason that I use them and think they're really good for people to use them, is you can do all 3 of these at the same time. That's the beauty of them. Are you going to be world class at any of these if you use kettlebell complexes? Not necessarily, but that's okay, because most people aren't really looking for that. They're looking for ways to do a little bit of everything in a time efficient way, in a way that's kind of fun for them to do. Kettlebell complexes can absolutely do them. Now, as you'll see as we go through some of these questions, they're gonna overlap and kind of intertwine a little bit as you go through it. But a lot of it's gonna be, it depends, and it depends on how you go about it. Are there ways to build a little bit more strength with kettlebell complexes? Yes, if you go really heavy doing them, absolutely. If you go a little bit lighter and move faster and have less rest, can you get more cardio? Yes, absolutely, and so on and so forth. So a lot of it is going to be dependent on how you use them. But the main idea is they're not necessarily meant for one specific thing. They are meant to do a little bit of everything in a time-efficient way and in a fun and engaging way. Now, the second question we're going to cover is, how do you use them? Basically being, how do you actually put them into a workout? Where do you put them into your workout? And again, it's going to depend on how you want to use them and how much of your training you want them to be. You can easily do a nice light kettlebell complex for a few sets and not have that much rest and use it as a nice little warm-up to get your entire body loosened up. You can absolutely use them as a full workout or half of your workout. That's something a lot of people ask as well, is it a full workout? It can be. Do you only have 20 minutes? Then cool, doing 8 sets of a kettlebell complex is gonna give you some muscular endurance and some good muscular training, some cardio, some strength. If you only got 20 minutes and you're doing 8 sets, boom, that can be your entire workout right there. If you've got some extra time, maybe that is half of your workout and not a full workout. Are you doing it as a little conditioning finisher? You want a little bit more cardio out of it? Cool, set an 8-minute clock. Maybe you get a moderately heavy kettlebell weight, you barely rest or rest as little as you can, and you use it as a finisher and go through that complex as many times as you can in 5, 8, 10, whatever it is minutes. You can use it as a nice piece like that. One of the ways that I tend to use them the most is they are kind of half of a workout for me. So half of my workout, if I'm gonna work out for 45 minutes, let's say, I might do a pretty difficult and heavy kettlebell complex for anywhere, and then we'll get into this as well, anywhere from 5 to 8 sets. I'm gonna push the weight a little bit. That's gonna be half of my workout, and then I'll move into some of my accessory work, pull-ups, push-ups, single arm rows, presses, swings, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of different ways that you can go about them. It is very dependent on how much you want to use them, how much do you want to use kettlebells, and kind of how your training looks, right? So again, play it by ear, go with what feels right for you and with how much you want to be using kettlebells and kettlebell complexes. Now, the third one is going to be, how many sets of these should I do? We just kind of talked about that a little bit. A lot of it's going to depend on how you're using them and how much time you've got, right? If it's a nice, easy warm-up, 3 to 4 sets. Are you using it for a full workout because you just need to focus on one thing? Maybe you're doing 7 or 8 sets. Is it just a little finisher? Maybe you do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 3 or 4 sets, whatever it is. What I tend to recommend for people is anywhere, if you're gonna use it as a solid part of your workout, so maybe a full workout or half of your workout, something like that, I tend to recommend anywhere from 5 to 8 sets. It is very dependent on how much time you've got and, quite frankly, how hard do you want to work. 8 sets of a pretty difficult kettlebell complex is going to wipe you out. I could promise you that. So a lot of it depends on, again, how much of this do you want to be part of your workout, and how much of your workout is it going to be. My usual recommendation, 5 to 8 sets is a good place to start. All right, next step is rest time. How much should I rest in between this? Again, very dependent. Are you looking to use it for strength? That's the way I tend to use them. If I'm gonna go really heavy and do a difficult complex, I might need a minute and a half to 2 minutes in between each set. If I want maybe a little bit more of a burn, a little cardio, I'm gonna go 45 seconds to a minute. It's dependent on how you wanna use it. The main way that I tend to use them is I like to push the weight. I like to use them for strength. I'm gonna do 5 to 8 sets, and I'm probably gonna rest a minute and a half to 2 minutes in between each set. If you're somewhere in the middle, a minute to 2 minutes is a really good way to kind of just go about it. And again, you can always change that as you go through it. If you're going for strength or something like that and you're building up each and every set, maybe in your first few sets you can rest a minute, but as you start to get more tired or heavier, you're going to let yourself rest for a little longer, a minute and a half to 2 minutes. So very dependent on how you use them, but a nice just general time frame is gonna be anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes. All right, the next question I get a lot is, can I do multiple complexes on the same day? And the answer is absolutely. Those are going to be some of the best and most fun workouts that you do. Like I said here, they can be a full workout if you only have 20 minutes, or they could be half of a workout in just 20 minutes or 20 to 25 minutes of your workout. But if you then just take another complex and stack it on there, you got a nice full 40 to 45 minute workout doing 2 complexes. So if you do a heavier complex, now if you are gonna do this, I would say make sure they don't overlap too much, right? So for example, if I do the Zeus complex, which is 6 rows, 5 cleans, and then 4 squats, I'm not gonna then do my second complex as the Aragorn complex, which is also 6 rows, 5 cleans, and then 4 push press. I'm going to switch them up. I might have something that's a little bit heavier and more difficult to start out, like the Gimli complex, 5 swings, 4 deadlift high pulls, and then 3 goblet squats. And then right after that, I might go into something like the Achilles complex, which is 3 single arm swings, 3 snatches, and 3 overhead lunges. So those complexes really don't overlap a little bit with each other at all, so it's going to be a really good combination for that day. That would be my one recommendation, but I highly recommend doing multiple on the same day. It is a fun day. It is something that I do in my kettlebell program, Project Bellplex, and it is something we do every single week. It's something I do in my kettlebell classes all the time, and they are always people's favorite day. So highly recommend doing that. It's going to be very difficult, very engaging, and just a really good time doing 2 complexes in one day. I highly recommend it. In addition to that, kind of a little bonus to this, when people ask if they can do one every day, the answer is again, yes. I would just recommend not doing ones, same concept where they're not overlapping too much. So maybe one day you do a little bit heavier and more of a weight bearing kettlebell complex, and then the next day you're gonna do one that's gonna require a little bit more skill or balance or something like that. Or you could switch up the way that you are doing it. Maybe one day you really go for some heavy weights on the complex, and then the next day you can still do one, but you're gonna go a little bit lighter and make it a little bit more of a cardio or finisher type of situation. All right, so this 6th question is probably the most common one that I get besides how many sets that I do, and it's kind of a combo. It's, why would I do a complex instead of a superset? And can I change weights in the middle of a complex because I can do one exercise with more weight than the other? So real quick, if you don't know the difference, a superset would be 10 single arm rows, then I move over, 10 bench press, and something like that. A superset is multiple exercises put together. A complex is multiple exercises put together into one free-flowing set, meaning you don't put the kettlebell or the barbell or dumbbell, you can do complexes with anything, down. You do all of the reps on all of the exercises, then put your barbell, kettlebell, dumbbell down. So what is the difference, and why wouldn't I just do a superset? And a lot of people tend to ask that because in many cases, there's one exercise in the complex that's going to dictate how heavy you can go. So let's bring it back to the Gimli complex. 5 swings, 4 deadlift high pulls, 3 goblet squats. Basically, everybody's going to be limited by how many goblet squats they can do or how heavy they can go on the goblet squats, but they might be able to do more than just 5 swings. Can I have a heavier kettlebell, do my 5 swings, and then move right over to something else that's a little bit lighter for my deadlift high pulls and squats? At the end of the day, Yeah, sure. You can go ahead and do that. There's nothing really wrong with that at the end of the day. It's not the end of the world if you want to do that. Now, the one thing I will say is most people, when they do that, aren't going to immediately hop in. They're probably going to take a few seconds, maybe 5 or 10, and then get into the next exercise. So that's why I like the complex is it forces you that the second you start your first exercise, you are not breaking. There is constant tension in the entire body throughout the entire complex, and you're not doing that. Or not dropping it. It's also just kind of fun to have something. It's a fun little goal. Can I do this entire complex with this weight? Sure. I can do 5 swings and then stop and then move over to a different weight and do 4 deadlift high pulls and then stop, move over and do 3 goblet squats and so on. But there's just something a little bit more fun about I'm going to do the whole complex. I'm doing the Gimli complex with a 124-pound kettlebell. Boom. And then that's something for you to then work for and beat eventually. Complexes also are a really good way to maximize a potentially small kettlebell arsenal. So yes, those 3 goblet squats might be, or those 5 swings might be easy, but we're kind of trying to make those squats a little bit harder by pre-fatiguing ourselves, right? So you might be able to goblet squat that weight pretty comfortably for 3 reps. But if you do 5 swings and 4 deadlift high pulls, now those goblet squats gets a little bit harder, and that's something we're looking to do instead of just constantly doing more reps with our goblet squats. The other thing that I would say with something like this is very dependent on how you train as well. So I personally do full body workouts basically every time I work out. So while I have a kettlebell complex that has push press in it, maybe it starts, so let's say I did 5 rows, 5 cleans, 5 push press. I could go heavier on the rows, but I might do bent over rows the next day or the day after, and that's where I'll be able to hit those hard. I'm not looking to fully maximize every set, every rep of every exercise that I do and go to fatigue, or go to failure, I should say. I'm looking to consistently move, so I might do some light rows on Monday as part of a complex, but then on Wednesday as part of my accessory work, I'm gonna do some heavy rows, and that's where I can really maximize my rows. So that's also something to think about and keep in mind when you are contemplating whether or not you should change weights in a kettlebell complex. All right, so the final question we're gonna be going over is, what if it's too easy? So if you were familiar with any of my kettlebell complexes that have names and set rep schemes to it, if you've done any of them, there's a small chance that you did it and you're like, that wasn't that difficult, because they all have the set rep, or the reps with each one of these exercises. So let's just use the PD special as an example. One of the most difficult ones I got, and it's rightfully named. So we got 5 rows, this is single arm, 5 rows, 5 swings, and then we do 5 thrusters. That might actually be too light for you. Now keep in mind, when I make these complexes, I have weights or access to basically any kettlebell weight that I want. So I myself can maximize and go as heavy as I want essentially in almost every single complex that I have. So I can adjust that as I need. I don't need to adjust reps or sets. I can just go up in weight. That's the way I like to do it. But not everybody has access to a ton of kettlebells like me. So if a complex that I've written out, you try out and it's too easy, what should you do? There's a few different ways you can go about it. You can rest less if you want a little bit more of a cardio response. You can do more sets, or you can always increase the reps. So let's take that PD special, 5 rows, 5 swings, and 5 thrusters. If that's too easy, do 6 of every exercise, do 7, do 8, do 10 if you need to. Whatever access of kettlebell weights you have, make the complex difficult however you need to. That's the whole goal of it. The goal is not to be, you have to do 5 reps of this and 5 reps of that. My goal, that's just to make them fun and interesting and have names to them. I want you to do whatever you need to do to get the most out of these kettlebell complexes, and that might be changing things up. You don't need to take what is written out by me as gospel. You are more than welcome to change things up and make it so that these kettlebell complexes fit what you need the most. And that's a wrap, guys. That should answer basically any questions that you have in regards to kettlebell complexes. If you haven't done them before, try them out. They are fun, they're engaging, they're different. They help you switch up your workouts, and at the end of the day, they're effective. I can promise you that. If you do have any questions in regards to kettlebell complexes, after watching this video, please don't hesitate to drop a comment below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate you guys sticking around. If you like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.